Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Cheating Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. The late autumn sun cast long shadows through Melvin Britton's home office window as he sat at his desk, reviewing client specifications for a new security system implementation. His headphones rested comfortably on his ears, a habit from his corporate surveillance days, though no music played through them. Working from home on Wednesdays had become his cherished routine, a perk of his senior position at TechGuard Solutions. The house sat quiet, save for the gentle hum of his computer and the occasional notification ping from his dual monitors. Family photos lined his desk: Nathan's Little League victory, their fishing trip to Lake Tahoe, and Dana beaming at their 10th anniversary party last year. Melvin glanced at his watch, 2:45 p.m. Nathan would be home from middle school soon. The distant sound of a car door closing caught his attention. Through his window, he spotted Dana's white Mercedes pulling into the driveway. Unusual. She typically worked late at Hanson Reality on Wednesdays, often closing deals with clients who couldn't meet during regular hours. The front door opened and closed, followed by the familiar sound of Nathan's backpack hitting the kitchen counter, a habit Melvin had tried unsuccessfully to break. "Hey, sweetie," Dana's voice carried through the partially open office door. "How was school today?" "Pretty good," Nathan replied. "Got an A on my science project. The one about renewable energy? That's wonderful. Your Uncle Ricky will be so proud when I tell him. He's always asking about your grades, you know." Melvin's fingers paused over his keyboard. Something in Dana's tone made his instincts, honed from years of security consulting, prickle with awareness. He reached for his phone, opening the recording app, another habit from his corporate days that had served him well. "Mom." Nathan's voice dropped lower, hesitant. "Uncle Ricky called me again yesterday. On my cell." "He did? What did you talk about?" "Just stuff. School. Basketball. But he said something weird. About how he wishes he could spend more time with me." There was a pause, followed by the sound of kitchen cabinets opening and closing. "Your uncle loves you very much, Nathan. Sometimes family relationships are complicated. Is that why he keeps sending me those expensive gifts?" Dad seemed kind of annoyed about the new gaming laptop, the clink of glasses on the counter. "Your father doesn't understand certain things. Speaking of Ricky, he's been asking about you again." More than usual. Melvin's jaw tightened. His brother's excessive interest in Nathan had always struck him as odd, but he dismissed it as Ricky compensating for not having children of his own. "Mom, why does Uncle Ricky care so much? Sometimes it's like he thinks he's my dad or something." The silence that followed felt heavy, pregnant with unspoken truths. Melvin's finger hovered over the recording app's stop button, but something kept it in place. "Sit down, sweetheart," Dana said finally. "There's something we need to discuss. Something I've been meaning to tell you for a while." The scrape of kitchen chairs against hardwood flooring. Melvin could picture them at the breakfast nook, where they'd shared countless family meals. "Your Uncle Ricky, he's not just your uncle. Dana's voice caught. "He's your real father." The words hit Melvin like a physical blow. His hand gripped his phone tighter, knuckles white against the black case. But Dad." "Melvin, your father, Melvin. He's been good to us. Very good. But there are things you don't know about what happened before you were born. Before I married him." Through the crack in his office door, Melvin caught a glimpse of Dana pulling Nathan into a hug. His son, or was he? Looked shell-shocked, his 12-year-old face pale and confused. Nathan pulled away from his mother's embrace, his young face contorted with a mix of confusion and distress. "I don't understand. How could Uncle Ricky be my real dad?" Dana smoothed her perfectly styled hair, a gesture Melvin had once found endearing but now seemed calculated. "It's complicated, sweetie. Before I married your dad, before Melvin, Ricky and I had something special." In his office, Melvin's breathing remained steady, controlled, even as his world tilted on its axis. Years of handling crisis situations had taught him the value of staying calm under pressure. The recording continued, capturing every word. "What do you mean, special?" Nathan's voice cracked slightly. "We were in love. deeply in love. But timing wasn't right. Ricky was starting his business ventures, traveling constantly. I needed stability, a settled life. And Melvin, he could provide that. So you just use Dad? For stability. The hurt in Nathan's voice mirrored the sharp pain in Melvin's chest. No, honey, it wasn't like that. Not entirely. Dana's tone shifted, becoming more defensive. Your father, Melvin, he's a good man, dependable, safe. But Ricky and I, we never stopped loving each other. We just had to be practical. The sound of pacing footsteps echoed through the kitchen. This doesn't make sense, Mom. If Uncle Ricky is my real dad, why did you marry Dad? Why keep it a secret? Because sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions. For their future. For their children's future. A chair scraped across the floor again. Look at me, Nathan. Everything I've done, everything we've done, has been to secure the best life possible for you. Does Dad know? A bitter laugh escaped Dana's lips. No, and he can't know. Not yet. The timing still isn't right. Mom, why can't we just tell Dad the truth? He deserves to know. Sweetie, timing is everything in life. I learned that in real estate, and it applies here too. Dana's voice took on a calculating edge that Melvin had never heard before. We have to be smart about this. Your father, Melvin, he's nearly paid off the house. And he's promised to cover your private high school tuition. The pieces clicked into place in Melvin's mind. The frequent late nights at the office. The suspicious text messages he'd glimpsed. His brother's increasingly lavish gifts to Nathan. So what's the plan? Nathan asked, his voice small. Ricky, and I have it all figured out. Once Melvin clears the home loan and sets up your tuition, we'll tell him at Christmas. The divorce settlement will give us everything we need. The house, substantial alimony, child support. Then we can finally be a real family with your true father. Melvin's hands trembled slightly as he saved the recording, his mind already racing through the implications. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was calculated, years in the making. But I don't want a different family, Nathan protested. I love Dad. He's been there for everything. My games, my science fairs, when I was sick. Hush now, Dana cut him off. This is adult business. You'll understand when you're older. For now, you need to keep this between us. Can you do that? For me and Uncle Ricky? The next morning, Melvin sat in a dimly lit booth at Cafe Morrison, far from his usual haunts. Across from him, Ignacio Russell nursed his third espresso of the day. The private investigator's reputation preceded him, methodical, discreet, and ruthlessly effective. I need everything, Melvin stated, sliding a USB drive across the table. The recording is just the beginning. I want bank records, phone logs, travel history. Anything that connects my wife and my brother over the past 13 years. Ignacio pocketed the drive without looking at it. Family cases are messy, Mr. Britton. Are you sure you want to pull this thread? They've been pulling threads behind my back for years. Melvin's voice remained steady, but his eyes held a cold determination. I need to know everything before I make my next move. It'll be expensive. Family cases require delicate handling, especially with a minor involved. Money isn't an issue. Melvin pulled out an envelope. This is your retainer. I want daily updates, no matter how small the detail. Over the next weeks, Melvin maintained a perfect facade at home while Ignacio's investigation uncovered layer after layer of deception. The PI's reports arrived encrypted, each one more damning than the last. Look at this, Ignacio said during one of their clandestine meetings, spreading photos across the table. Bali, 12 years ago. 3 weeks before your wedding. The images show Dana and Ricky at a private resort, looking very much like honeymooners. Melvin's stomach churned at the sight of his brother kissing his soon-to-be wife by a private pool. There's a paper trail too, Ignacio continued, pulling out financial records. Regular transfers from your brother to an offshore account in your wife's name. Started right after Nathan was born. Monthly deposits, increasing over time. Melvin studied the bank statements, his security background helping him trace the complex web of transactions. They've been planning this for years. That's not all. Ignacio pulled up property records on his tablet. Your brother purchased a cabin 6 months ago through an LLC registered in the Cayman Islands. Guess who's been meeting him there twice a month? Security camera footage showed Dana's Mercedes at the cabin's gates, timestamps corresponding with her late nights at the office. What about Nathan? Melvin asked, his voice softening slightly. Any indication they've told him anything else? The kid, scared and confused, been spending more time at the school library, avoiding home. His teachers have noticed a drop in his usual enthusiasm. Ignacio hesitated. There's something else you should know. I did some digging into Dana's past, specifically around the time of Nathan's conception. Melvin looked up sharply. What did you find? There was another man in the picture. Ray Blanchard, Dana's college boyfriend. He was in town during the relevant time frame, about a month before she started seeing your brother. Ray Blanchard? The name stirred a vague memory. Wasn't he killed in a car accident? 10 years ago. Highway collision outside of Portland. Ignacio pushed forward another document. Mr. Britton, have you considered the possibility that neither you nor your brother might be Nathan's biological father? Melvin stared at the document, his mind racing through the implications. I need you to get DNA samples, discreetly, from all of us. Already ahead of you. Ignacio tapped his tablet. I've made arrangements with a private lab. They're very understanding about chain of custody issues. As Melvin drove home that evening, his thoughts turned to Nathan. Biological truth aside, the boy he'd raised for 12 years was his son in every way that mattered. Dana and Ricky's betrayal was unforgivable, but Nathan was innocent in all this. The house lights were on when he pulled into the driveway. Through the living room window, he could see Dana on the phone, probably with Ricky, planning their Christmas reveal. She had no idea that her carefully constructed house of cards was about to collapse. Melvin touched the encrypted flash drive in his pocket, containing all of Ignacio's evidence. The endgame was approaching, but he needed to be patient, strategic. Dana and Ricky thought they were the chess masters in this game. They were about to learn they weren't the only ones who could play the long game. Ollie Hartman's downtown office radiated calculated power, situated on the 42nd floor of Glass Tower. Persian rugs softened the marble floors, while antique military maps adorned the walls, remnants of his and Melvin's shared past in Army intelligence. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the floor-to-ceiling windows as Melvin watched his friend of 15 years review Ignacio's evidence. Your brother's gotten sloppy, Ollie noted, examining bank statements showing transfers to Dana's hidden account. Using shell companies registered in his girlfriend's name? Amateur hour. Melvin raised an eyebrow. Girlfriend? Jessica Chun, 26. Personal trainer. She thinks Ricky's divorcing his wife. Ollie slid across a surveillance photo showing Ricky with a young Asian woman outside an upscale restaurant. Your brother's building quite the house of cards. Dana knows. Doesn't look like it. She still thinks she's the only one. Ollie's fingers drummed against his desk, a tell from their poker nights. The good news? We can protect your assets. The bad news? Your brother's involvement complicates things. Through the window, Melvin watched the city transition into dusk, lights flickering on in surrounding buildings like stars emerging. I want Nathan protected. He's innocent in all this. We can create a trust, Ollie suggested, pulling up documents on his curved monitor. Put the house and investments in it. Make Nathan the beneficiary. They can't touch it in a divorce. But there's more we can do. Ollie outlined an intricate legal strategy that would not only protect Nathan's future, but potentially expose Dana and Ricky's broader financial misconduct. Through their investigation, they discovered Ricky had been using his real estate ventures with Dana to launder money from questionable overseas investments. Your brother's been playing both sides, Ollie explained. The SEC's already sniffing around his latest development project. One anonymous tip about Dana's involvement in the documentation. She's been notarizing fraudulent papers, Melvin realized, remembering the late nights Dana spent catching up on paperwork at her office. Exactly. The trust protects Nathan. The threat of federal investigation keeps them from fighting it. Ali's smile was predatory. They're expecting a simple divorce. They have no idea what's really coming. For the next 2 hours, they constructed a legal fortress around Nathan's future. The trust would cover not only the house and investments, but also provide for his education through graduate school. Special provisions ensured neither Dana nor Ricky could access the funds, even as guardians. What about custody? Melvin asked, his voice tight. Given Nathan's age, the court will consider his preference. But we've got leverage. Ollie pulled out another file. Remember Sandra Mitchell? Dana's former assistant? The one she fired last year? She's willing to testify about Dana's inappropriate relationships with clients. Seems your wife has been mixing business with pleasure beyond just Ricky. The revelation should have hurt, but Melvin felt only cold satisfaction. Every new piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of Dana's planned Christmas performance. Document everything, Ollie advised. Every conversation, every interaction. We'll need a clean timeline when this goes to court. And Ricky's girlfriend? Leave Miss Chen to me. She's already suspicious about Ricky's excuses. One anonymous email with proof of his meetings with Dana. Melvin nodded, appreciating the elegance of Ollie's strategy. Let their own deceptions become their undoing. The next months unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. While Dana and Ricky plotted their Christmas revelation, Melvin orchestrated his counter-strategy with military precision. Each move was calculated, each interaction scripted to maintain their false sense of security. TechGuard Solutions provided the perfect cover. Melvin scheduled business trips that coincidentally overlapped with Dana's meetings with Ricky, gathering evidence while appearing completely unaware. His security background proved invaluable as he documented their patterns, their lies, their growing carelessness. One crisp November morning, Melvin sat in his parked car outside the mountain cabin, watching Dana's Mercedes disappear down the private road. Once she was gone, he approached the property, his security expertise making quick work of the basic alarm system. Inside, evidence of their betrayal was everywhere. Photos, letters, plans for their post-divorce life together. But it was the laptop left carelessly on the kitchen counter that proved most valuable. Dana had forgotten to log out of her email. That evening, during another tense family dinner, Melvin watched them perform their usual roles while encryption software quietly copied every incriminating document from Dana's phone to his secure server. Nathan's science project won first prize, Ricky announced, playing the proud uncle. Have you considered Brighton Prep for high school? Their STEM program is outstanding. It's quite exclusive, Dana added, shooting Melvin a meaningful look. But Nathan deserves the best education possible, doesn't he, dear? Of course. Melvin took a measured sip of water. Nothing but the best for our son. Later, after Nathan had gone to bed, Dana lingered in the kitchen. I was thinking we should host Christmas this year. Make it really special. Special how? Melvin asked, noting how she unconsciously touched the necklace Ricky had given her. A tell she didn't realize she had. Just special. The whole family together. One last time. The irony almost made him laugh. Instead, he smiled. Whatever you want, dear. It's your show. Meanwhile, the trust took shape behind the scenes. The house, investments, and his controlling interest in TechGuard Solutions were gradually transferred into Nathan's name. Ollie's legal expertise ensured every transaction was ironclad, while leaving just enough in joint accounts to avoid suspicion. The paperwork's ready, Ollie reported during one of their secure video calls. The trust is established with you as trustee until Nathan turns 25. We've also set up a separate foundation for his education, completely insulated from any divorce proceedings. The hardest part wasn't the legal maneuvering or asset transfers. It was maintaining normalcy with Nathan. The boy was struggling under the weight of his mother's secret, his grades slipping slightly, his usual enthusiasm dimmed. One Saturday, after a particularly tense family breakfast, Melvin took Nathan fishing, their traditional father-son activity since he was 6. Dad, Nathan asked as they sat in their usual spot by the lake, do you ever wish things were different? Melvin caught the tremor in his son's voice. Different how? Just different. Like maybe if you had a different family or a different son. Nathan, look at me. Melvin turned to face the boy who had captured his heart 12 years ago. Family isn't about what we're born into. It's about the choices we make every day. And I choose you. Always. The boy's eyes welled with tears. Even if what? Melvin kept his voice gentle, though he knew exactly what Nathan was struggling to say. Nothing. Nathan looked away. Just, thanks, Dad. December arrived with a bitter cold snap and an unexpected revelation. The DNA test results, delivered to Melvin's private mailbox, confirmed what Ignacio's investigation had suggested. Nathan wasn't his biological son. But the twist, he wasn't Ricky's either. Ray Blanchard, Ignacio explained during their meeting at the cafe, Dana's college sweetheart. He was in town during the conception window, staying at the Grand Marina. Adjacent rooms, 3 nights. Melvin studied the hotel records, his mind racing. The timing fits. But Blanchard died years ago. Car accident outside Portland. 10 years ago this month. Ignacio pushed forward another file. Here's where it gets interesting. Blanchard knew. What? Found his old emails. He confronted Dana right before the accident. Threatened to tell you everything. Ignacio's expression was grim. The crash report noted brake failure. Recently serviced car, experienced driver, clear weather. The implication hung heavy in the air. Dana? No proof. But Ricky's company handled Blanchard's life insurance policy. Standard procedure became complicated. Payment delayed for months until Dana provided additional documentation. The pieces clicked into place with terrible clarity. Dana hadn't just betrayed Melvin. She'd orchestrated a complex web of deception spanning years, possibly including Blanchard's death. And Ricky, blinded by his own arrogance, actually believed he was Nathan's father. Does Ricky know about Blanchard? No evidence he does. He's been making plans, private school tours, college savings accounts, all while using your money, of course. Melvin absorbed this information with the detachment his military training had instilled. The trust? Secure. Even if the truth about Blanchard comes out, Nathan's future is protected. That evening, Melvin sat in his home office, reviewing the final pieces of his counter-strategy. The DNA results, the trust documents, the evidence of Dana and Ricky's financial fraud. Everything was ready for their Christmas surprise. Through his partially open door, he heard Dana on the phone, presumably with Ricky. Everything's arranged, she whispered. Christmas Eve will be perfect. Melvin won't know what hit him. Melvin smiled coldly at her choice of words. Let them plan their perfect moment. Let them think they held all the cards. The truth would be his Christmas gift to them all. A truth far more devastating than they could imagine. As he encrypted the final documents, Melvin thought about Nathan, about choices and consequences. Biology hadn't been there for 12 years of little league games and science projects. DNA hadn't taught Nathan to ride a bike or helped him overcome his fear of thunderstorms. Love, he had learned, was about choices, and he had made his. Christmas was coming. Dana and Ricky thought they were the architects of destruction, but they had no idea that their perfectly planned revelation would become their own undoing. The truth about Ray Blanchard was just one card in Melvin's hand, a hand he had spent months carefully assembling. Let them have their moment, he thought, listening to Dana laugh softly into her phone. Let them think they've won. The real gift would be watching their house of cards collapse, knowing that Nathan was safely beyond their reach. The endgame was approaching, and Melvin was ready. Not for revenge. Revenge was too simple, too emotional. No, this was about justice, about protecting what mattered most. Christmas would indeed be special this year, just not in the way Dana and Ricky had planned. As December's chill settled over the city, Melvin intensified his time with Nathan. The boy's recent knowledge of his mother's deception weighed heavily on him, visible in the slight slump of his shoulders and the shadows under his eyes. Rather than let Dana and Ricky's machinations poison these precious days, Melvin planned a series of father-son activities that would cement their bond regardless of what Christmas might bring. Their first adventure took them to Mount Baker for a weekend camping trip. As they set up their tent in the crisp mountain air, Melvin watched Nathan methodically securing the guy lines, a skill he'd taught him during their first camping trip 4 years ago. You remember the knot I showed you? Melvin asked, testing the tension on one line. Double figure eight, Nathan replied, demonstrating the technique perfectly. Because it won't slip in the wind. That's right. Always secure your foundations first. The deeper meaning wasn't lost on Nathan. He paused, hands still on the rope. Dad, can we talk about something? They sat on a fallen log overlooking the valley, the setting sun painting the snow-capped peaks in shades of gold and purple. Nathan pulled his knees to his chest, making himself smaller, a gesture that reminded Melvin of the frightened 6-year-old who'd once crawled into his bed during a thunderstorm. Mom thinks. She says that after Christmas, everything's going to change. Melvin turned to face his son directly. What do you think about that? I don't want things to change. Nathan's voice cracked slightly. She keeps talking about how Uncle Ricky will be more involved, how we'll be a real family. But I already have a real family. I have you. Nathan, look at me. Melvin waited until the boy met his eyes. There are two kinds of family in this world. The kind we're born into, and the kind we choose. Sometimes they're the same. Sometimes they're different. But the choices we make, those are what really matter. But what if? Nathan hesitated, tears threatening. What if I'm not who you thought I was? You're my son, Melvin stated firmly. That's not about blood or DNA or anything else. It's about every moment we've shared, every lesson learned, every challenge faced together. Nothing can change that. Not your mother, not Uncle Ricky, not anyone. You promise? I promise. And you know what I always say about promises. They're contracts with our honor. Nathan finished, a small smile breaking through his worry. The following week, they attended Nathan's basketball tournament. The boy had inherited his athletic ability from someone. Another mystery Dana had woven into her web of lies. But his competitive spirit, his strategic thinking on the court, those had been nurtured through countless backyard practice sessions with Melvin. From the bleachers, Melvin watched Nathan execute a perfect pick-and-roll play they'd practiced for hours. Dana sat several rows away, pretending to film the game while actually texting Ricky. Her carefully crafted mask of maternal pride slipped whenever Nathan glanced her way, revealing the calculation beneath. After the game, which Nathan's team won handily, they stopped for ice cream at their favorite shop. While Nathan savored his triple chocolate sundae, Melvin noticed him watching a father and son at another table, the man teaching his boy how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Dad, Nathan's voice was thoughtful. Will you always love me? The question hit Melvin like a physical blow, not for its content, but for the fear behind it. He set down his spoon, giving the moment the weight it deserved. Always, he replied, his voice firm with conviction. Family isn't just about blood. It's about choice. And I chose you 12 years ago. Nothing will ever change that. Christmas Eve dawned with a blanket of fresh snow, transforming the neighborhood into a winter wonderland. Dana had spent weeks orchestrating her perfect setting, turning their home into a showcase of holiday perfection. Crystal snowflakes hung from the chandelier, professional garlands wrapped the staircase, and the massive Christmas tree dominated the living room, its white and gold ornaments carefully curated to match her theme. Everything has to be perfect, she instructed the catering staff, her voice sharp with barely contained excitement. This is a very special occasion. Melvin watched from his study as she directed traffic, noting how her hand kept straying to her phone, probably texting updates to Ricky. She'd chosen everyone's outfits, insisted on a professional photographer, even hired a string quartet for ambience. Her attention to detail in planning their family's destruction was almost admirable. The guests began arriving at 6. First came Ken Roberts and Betty Muller, Melvin's parents, who had no idea their Christmas celebration would become a battlefield. Betty immediately gravitated to Nathan, pulling him into a warm embrace while Ken clapped Melvin on the shoulder. Something's different about Dana, Betty murmured to Melvin as they watched his wife direct the catering staff. She seems eager. It's a special night, Melvin replied, his tone neutral. She's been planning it for months. Ricky arrived fashionably late, his entrance carefully timed to coincide with the first round of champagne. His smile dripped with smug satisfaction as he handed Nathan an elaborately wrapped gift. For my favorite nephew, he announced loudly, shooting Melvin a look of barely concealed triumph. Only the best for our boy. Dana fluttered nearby, her designer dress catching the light as she supervised the photographer's angles. Ricky, you shouldn't have. Although Nathan deserves to be spoiled by by family, the slip was subtle, but Melvin caught his mother's slight frown. Betty had always been perceptive, her years as a family court judge honing her ability to spot deception. She touched Melvin's arm gently. "Is everything all right, son?" "It will be," he assured her, patting the envelope in his pocket. "Just wait for the gift exchange." More relatives arrived. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all unwitting audience members for Dana's planned performance. She had positioned everything perfectly. The seating arrangements, the timing of dinner, the moment she would shatter their family's foundations. While Dana basked in her imagined triumph, Melvin quietly placed his envelope on the tree, securing it with a golden ribbon that matched her carefully chosen decorations. The irony of using her own aesthetic choices to deliver her downfall wasn't lost on him. Nathan watched the proceedings with growing anxiety, his young shoulders tense under the weight of secrets. During a quiet moment, he found Melvin in the kitchen. "Dad, I don't feel good about this." "I know, son." Melvin squeezed his shoulder gently. "But sometimes the truth needs to come out. Just remember what I said about choices and promises." The moment Dana had orchestrated for months finally arrived. The family gathered around the tree, champagne glasses in hand, the string quartet providing sophisticated background music. She stood with practiced grace, her expression a masterpiece of false sincerity. "I have an announcement," she began, sharing a knowing look with Ricky. "Actually," Melvin interrupted smoothly, "I have a gift for everyone first." The slight falter in Dana's smile was worth every second of planning. He retrieved the envelope, performing his own choreography with the same precision she'd applied to her decorations. Copies were distributed to Dana, Ricky, and Nathan, each sealed with that matching golden ribbon. "What's this?" Ricky's arrogance slipped slightly as he opened the envelope. Melvin watched their faces as they processed the contents. DNA test results, trust documents securing the house and investments in Nathan's name, evidence of their affair, and, the coup de grace, proof of Ray Blanchard's paternity. "Merry Christmas," he said softly, his voice carrying in the sudden silence. "Nathan, the house and your education are secured in a trust. No one can take them from you." Dana's champagne glass slipped from nerveless fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor she'd had professionally polished for the occasion. The sound matched the breaking of her carefully constructed plans. "Dana, Ricky, you should know that Nathan isn't either of ours biologically. He's Ray Blanchard's son." The room froze. Betty gasped softly, her judicial mind probably already calculating the legal implications. Ken's face darkened with understanding and fury. But it was Nathan's expression, a mix of fear, relief, and desperate hope, that mattered most. "This is ridiculous," Dana sputtered, her mask cracking. "You can't possibly." "The trust is ironclad," Melvin continued calmly. "Everything is in Nathan's name, properly structured and legally binding. There's also a copy of the divorce papers. Don't worry about taking everything. I've already given it all to the person who deserves it." Ricky lunged forward, his face purple with rage. "You had no right." "I had every right." Melvin cut him off coldly. "Brother." The weight of betrayal in that last word stopped Ricky cold. Around them, family members were beginning to understand the scope of what was unfolding, shocked whispers and accusations filling the air. Melvin turned to Nathan, who stood trembling but straight-backed, stronger than any 12-year-old should need to be. He pulled his son into a tight embrace. "I love you, son," he whispered fiercely. "Remember our promise." Then, with the same quiet dignity that had characterized his entire response to their betrayal, Melvin walked out into the snowy night. Behind him, he heard Dana's carefully orchestrated evening dissolving into chaos, her dream of triumph transformed into a nightmare of exposure. 1 year later, the dust had settled into new patterns. Nathan lived in the house with his Aunt Sandy Richard as his guardian, thriving under her care and free from Dana's manipulations. The trust ensured his education and security, while weekly video calls and regular visits kept his bond with Melvin strong. Dana and Ricky's relationship had imploded spectacularly. The truth about Ray Blanchard had shattered their illusions, their arrogance turning to bitter recrimination as their perfect plan crumbled. Last Melvin heard, Dana had moved to another state, her real estate license suspended pending investigation into certain irregular transactions. Melvin had built a new life in Seattle, close enough for frequent visits, but far enough to give Nathan space to heal and grow. Their bond, tested by fire and deception, had emerged stronger, built on a foundation of choice rather than blood. The trust stood as a testament to Melvin's unconditional love, a father's final gift to the son of his heart. But the real victory wasn't in the trust documents or the exposed lies. It was in the quiet moments, helping Nathan with homework over video chat, attending his basketball games, watching him grow into a young man who understood that true family transcends biology. Nathan would later say that Christmas was when he learned the true meaning of fatherhood, not in the DNA results that shattered his world, but in the love of a man who chose to be his father even after learning he wasn't. The trust protected his future, but Melvin's love had saved his present, teaching him that the strongest bonds aren't forged by blood, but by choice. The Christmas tree envelope had delivered justice, but Melvin's true revenge wasn't in exposing their betrayal. It was in rising above it, choosing love over bitterness, and protecting the one innocent person in the whole tragic story. In the end, he had given Nathan the greatest gift possible, the knowledge that he was wanted, chosen, and loved, not out of obligation or biology, but because of who he was. Epilogue. 10 years later. The autumn breeze rustled through the maple trees lining Brighton Prep's campus as 22-year-old Nathan Britton adjusted his graduation cap. A decade had passed since that fateful Christmas Eve, and life had taken unexpected turns for everyone involved. Nathan stood as valedictorian of Brighton Prep's medical school, his academic achievements a testament to both his dedication and the trust that had secured his future. Beside him, Melvin beamed with pride, his hair now touched with distinguished gray at the temples. Though they lived in different cities, their bond had only strengthened over the years. "I never doubted you'd make it," Melvin said, straightening Nathan's tie, a gesture that had become their tradition since Nathan's high school graduation. "Couldn't have done it without you, Dad." Nathan's voice carried the same warmth it had when he was 12, though deeper now. "Remember when you helped me with my first biology assignment? Who knew it would lead to medical school?" The years had been kind to Melvin. After relocating to Seattle, he had transformed TechGuard Solutions into a cybersecurity empire, specializing in protecting medical institutions, inspired by Nathan's career choice. He had remarried 5 years ago to Claire Bennett, a pediatric surgeon who shared his values about chosen family. Their blended household included her daughter Emma, now 13, who adored her stepbrother Nathan. The same couldn't be said for Dana Hansen. The implosion of her carefully orchestrated plans had triggered a spectacular downfall. The investigation into her fraudulent real estate dealings, triggered by evidence Melvin had quietly provided to authorities, had resulted in a suspended license and hefty fines. Her attempt to contest the trust had backfired spectacularly when Ollie Hartman presented evidence of her broader financial misconduct. "Did you hear about Mom?" Nathan asked as they walked across campus. "She tried reaching out again last month. Through her new lawyer? Instagram. Actually, she's selling wellness products now. One of those multi-level marketing schemes." Nathan's tone carried neither bitterness nor pity, just factual observation. "She's living in Arizona with husband number 4. Still claims she did everything for my own good." Dana's post-divorce life had become a cautionary tale in their social circle. After her real estate career imploded, she had cycled through 3 marriages, each shorter than the last. Her attempts to rebuild her reputation in various cities had consistently crumbled when her past caught up with her. The truth about Ray Blanchard had become public knowledge, destroying her carefully crafted image of victimhood. Ricky Francis had fared even worse. The SEC investigation into his business dealings, prompted by irregularities discovered during the divorce proceedings, had uncovered a web of fraud extending far beyond his affair with Dana. His girlfriend, Jessica Chin, had turned state's evidence, revealing how he had used their relationship to hide assets and launder money. Uncle Ricky sent a card, Nathan mentioned, his tone sardonic, from federal prison. "Still has 2 years left on his sentence." Melvin nodded, unsurprised. "And he's still claiming that he had no idea about Ray Blanchard?" "Yeah. Though he did finally admit the whole devoted uncle act was just to spite you." Guess prison gives people time to reflect. The investigation had revealed the full extent of Ricky's vindictiveness. His interest in Nathan had never been paternal. It was purely about hurting his more successful brother. The discovery that he wasn't Nathan's father had shattered his ego more than losing his freedom. Aunt Sandy Richard, who had stepped up as Nathan's guardian after that Christmas, now ran a successful youth counseling center. Her experience helping Nathan navigate the aftermath of family deception had inspired her to assist other children dealing with parental betrayal. She had become a frequent speaker at family therapy conferences, sharing their story as an example of how love and honesty could overcome betrayal. "Grandma Betty's in the audience," Nathan said, spotting the former judge in the graduation crowd. "She's still angry at Mom, you know?" Says Dana's actions cheapened everything she fought for in family court. Betty Muller had retired from the bench but remained active in family law reform, using Dana and Ricky's case as an example of why trust law needed strengthening. She and Ken had become vocal advocates for children's rights in custody cases, their personal experience lending weight to their arguments. The graduation ceremony itself was a testament to how life had evolved. In the audience sat Claire and Emma, along with Aunt Sandy and the grandparents. Ollie Hartman attended with his wife, their friendship with Melvin having deepened into true family bonds. Even Ignacio Russell, the PI whose investigation had uncovered the truth, had become a regular at family gatherings. After the ceremony, as they gathered for photos, Nathan pulled Melvin aside. "You know what I realized today? That Christmas wasn't just about exposing their lies. It was about teaching me what real love looks like." "How so?" "Mom and Uncle Ricky thought love was about possession, having control, keeping secrets, but you showed me it's about choices. Choosing to love, to protect, to be honest, even when it hurts." The wisdom in Nathan's words reflected the man he'd become, compassionate yet clear-eyed, shaped by adversity but not hardened by it. His choice to pursue medicine, specializing in genetic counseling, was partly influenced by his own story. He wanted to help other families navigate the complex intersection of biology and belonging. Their extended family had gathered at Melvin and Claire's Seattle home that evening, celebrating not just Nathan's graduation but the journey that had brought them here. The house rang with laughter, conversations, and the kind of genuine warmth that Dana's perfectly orchestrated Christmas Eve had tried but failed to fake. In the kitchen, Claire organized the catering with the easy efficiency of someone used to managing operating rooms, while Emma proudly showed Nathan her science project, carrying on the tradition of siblings helping siblings. Aunt Sandy discussed her latest counseling techniques with Betty, while Ken and Ollie debated recent changes in family law. Watching them, Melvin reflected on how tragedy had ultimately strengthened their true family bonds while exposing the false ones. Dana and Ricky's betrayal had intended to destroy, but instead had cleared the way for something more authentic to grow. Nathan's phone buzzed, another message from Dana, this one claiming she'd found herself through essential oils and wanted to make amends. He showed it to Melvin with a slight smile before deleting it unread. "Some people never learn, do they?" Nathan observed. "They learn the wrong lessons," Melvin corrected. "They think love is about what you can take. They never understand it's about what you choose to give." The evening wound down with toasts and stories, each person there representing a choice to create family through love rather than obligation. Claire's daughter Emma had started calling Nathan Big Brother without any prompting, their relationship as real as any biological bond. As guests departed, Nathan lingered in his old room, now converted to a study but still holding photos from his childhood, camping trips, basketball games, science fairs. Every image captured moments of choice, of love freely given and returned. 10 years, Nathan mused, looking at a photo from that last Christmas Eve. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if they'd succeeded with their plan." "They never could have," Melvin replied confidently. "Their plan was built on lies. Truth doesn't always win quickly, but it wins eventually." The proof was in the lives they'd built. While Dana drifted between failed marriages and pyramid schemes, while Ricky counted days in federal prison, their chosen family had flourished. Nathan's medical career, Claire and Emma's addition to their lives, Aunt Sandy's counseling work, the strengthened bonds with grandparents and friends, all testified to the power of choosing love over deception. The scandal had faded from society gossip, but its lessons remained. In legal circles, the Britton case was cited in trust law reforms. In family therapy, Their story helped other families understand that biology was just one way to create kinship. And in their own lives, it stood as a reminder that the strongest bonds aren't inherited but chosen. As the Seattle skyline twinkled beyond the window, father and son stood together, their relationship a living rebuke to those who thought family could be reduced to DNA or divorce settlements. The trust had secured Nathan's education, but Melvin's love had secured his future in ways no legal document could measure. The Christmas tree envelope had delivered justice a decade ago, but the real gift had been the truth it revealed. That love, when chosen freely and given honestly, could survive any betrayal and build something stronger from the ashes of deception. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.